Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Myers and welcome to another episode of Mr. Myers Minis. Today we are going to be going over how to use a field guide in order to identify a tree. Now, how do you identify a tree? How do you tell one tree species apart from another tree species? Well, first thing you want to do is try to look at the leaves. Is the leaf a needle? That is it a conifer? Or is it broad-leafed? Does it have broad leaves and not needles? Like this tree right here, that has broad leaves, and this tree right here has needles. Therefore, this one must be a conifer. And conifers get its name because they produce cones, and there's actually a little mini cone growing right here. And the cones are where the seeds of this tree will be found. All right, so leaves are what you want to look at, and you also want to look at the bark. Now, on this tree, it's still a sapling, so its defining features of its bark aren't really there. But if you had a tree that was mature, you could definitely see that different trees have different types of bark. And also you want to look at how the tree is growing. Is it growing kind of like a big oval? Is it growing really straight? Is it growing all twisted? Or is it growing like a triangle? Different trees are going to have different shapes in how they grow. So this one you can see is really good at bending towards the light or away from stresses and getting towards other things other resources it's trying to get. All right, and also you want to take note, another thing you want to take note of when you're identifying trees is where are you? Are you in a wetland? Are you in under a bunch of trees in a forest understory? Are you in a big open field? These are all different types of habitats. Does anyone know what a habitat is? If you thought where something lives and finds food and shelter and space and water, you would be correct. And trees are living things, just like you or I. And different trees need different types of habitat. And that will help you narrow down what type of tree you're looking for. All right, so let me introduce to you two of the best field guides I have for not only identifying trees, but identifying a lot of plants as well. But we're focusing on trees today. So one really great resource for trees is Trees to Know in Oregon. And it's by Edward C. Jensen, and it was produced by OSU. Another great book is Plants of the Pacific Northwest Coast. This one goes over the Pacific Northwest coast all the way from Alaska to Northern California. But it definitely includes the Willamette Valley here in Portland. So when you're picking a field guide to use, pick one that is local. Pick one that's going to have local species. If you're in Oregon, don't pick one that's trees of upstate New York because, okay, there might be a few overlaps, but a lot of the plants you're going to look at, you're not going to find. So make sure you're getting the right type of field guide. All right, so let's try to identify this tree right here. Now, is this tree broad-leafed or does it have needles? If you said it has needles, you are correct. Woo-hoo. So we will go and use this resource right here, and we will go to, we're looking at trees, and we know that they're needles, but what type of needles are they? Well, this one has flat and long needles, and that means that it's definitely a pine. If it had different shaped needles, it could mean it was a fir, or maybe even another type of conifer too, like a cedar. If it had scales, then you would know that it was a cedar tree. So it could be a fir tree, or it could be a pine tree, or it could even be a spruce too. But this one is a pine. And so let me see if I can find where the pines are. All right, I found where the pines are. Now, the next thing you want to look at for conifers are how are the needles arranged? Well, these ones are arranged in bundles of 2. So I want to also look that up in here. So Let's see if I can find ones that are in bundles of 2. Aha! I found one. The shore pine. Well, this one says it's short, grows about 20 meters tall, often with a crooked trunk. Well, this one's actually grown pretty crooked towards the sun. And also it has kind of an irregular or almost pillow-like crown. And this one actually gives the shape of the crowns of the tree. And you've actually probably seen this if you've ever been out to the coast. The coast has a lot of shore pines that are growing sometimes in sand dunes or sometimes right along the line of where the plants stop growing. All right, so this one is indeed a shore pine. Now I could have told you that before I used this book because I planted it, but you can see that this book is really useful in order to follow certain steps to identify trees. Now when you're using your field guide, definitely read through it and get to know some of the ways that they will lead you to identify trees, because each field guide is going to have a little bit of a different method that it uses, but it will use the same identifying characteristics to identify trees, such as leaf arrangement, and also what bark it has, where is it growing, and also kind of the shape of the tree. And don't worry, if you get a little frustrated at first, that's okay, because it's really hard when you start trying to identify things right off the bat. So definitely pick like 1 or 2 trees to start off with. That way you can really get to be an expert in identifying those 1 or 2 trees, and pick trees that you see often. That will help you be able to identify the tree better and more frequently, and it'll make you more of a botanist and also make you a plant pro. And you can also do some fun activities where you can get like a piece of paper and you can cover the bark of the tree a little bit, and you can do a crayon rubbing to get the different shape of the bark or the different textures of the bark. And if you find needles or leaves on the ground, you can take them and put them in a piece of paper and fold the piece of paper, and you can do a crayon rubbing of the leaf also to get kind of make a cool art project, or maybe even some cards to send out to some family members or whatnot. But it'll also help you to become familiar with the way the leaf looks. All right, well, I hope you all enjoyed the introduction to tree identification, and I hope you all enjoyed it and join me in next time. All right, well, take care.